Welcome friends. Today we will learn about loops and iteration in Python. The today's topic we will learn while loops, that is known as indefinite loop, infinite loop, some statement that is break and continue, another kind of loop, the for loop, some iterations variable and program to find out the largest or smallest in using the loop. Let's have a pictures and understand the program. As you understand from the output, if we want to print 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, something like this, we required repeated steps. And for repeated steps, we write in some conditions that is known as loops. So loops, we can say, loops have iterations variable that change their value each time through a loop. Often these iteration variable go through a sequence of numbers. Let's have another example. This is known as an infinite loop. Can you find out the wrong with this loop? Why it is infinite? Right, you say that there is no update statement. Let's have another loop. Again, can you say what does this loop do? This loop doesn't give any output. It gives only the output of last line, that is dry off. The breaking out of loop, the break statement and the current loop and jump to the statement immediately following the loop. It is like a loop test that can happen anywhere in the body of the loop. Inside a loop, a condition is placed, and on matching on that condition, we can terminate the repetition of the loop. Here in this case example, we input from the users. On behalf of input, if the input of the user is done, then only the loop is terminated, else the loop is repeated number of times. See, the break statement helps to move the control of the Dumbo to the last line print done, that is outside the loop. If we go for the flow charting, it seems that with the help of break statement, we have another path to comes out of the loop. Similarly, we have another statement that is known as continue. The continue statement and the current iterations and jump to the top of the loop and start the next execution. It means it is also used with some conditions, and based on the conditions, the control is jump to the top of the loop and start next iteration. See in the output, whenever we give an input hello there, we place hash don't print this. On the behalf of hash, it restart the next iterations and ask for the new input. As the lines show, on matching the conditions continue goes the control to the while statement. See, it is another way to go to the top of the loop. Now can you help me to find out? A student is asked to stop the loop at a condition. Which option is used in the program? Using break or using continue? Correctly, you say using break. Now comes to the indefinite loop. While loop are called indefinite loops because they keeps going until a logical condition becomes false. The loop we have seen so far are pretty easy to examine to see if they will be terminate or if they will be infinite loops. Sometimes it is very little harder to be sure if a loop will terminate. On the other hand, we have definite loop. Quite often we have a list of items of a line in a file, effectively a finite set of things. We can write a loop to run the loop once for each of the item in a set using the Python for construct. These loops are called definite loop because they execute an exact number of times. We can say that definite loop iterates through the number of member of set. See this example. We are using for statement in which we have a set 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as a list, or we can say it is a sequence. Or using this definite sequence, we iterate for each variables and display the body of the loop with each values. In this example, we see the sequence is with the string, and for each strings, we can reiterate the statement number of times. Means what is the length of the string set 3, it means the output will be 3 times. Definite loop have explicit iteration variable that change each time through a loop. These iteration variable move through the sequence or set. Here in this example, I is the iteration variable that move through the sequence 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now look at the scenario. The iteration variable that is colored with the green iterate through the sequence, that is I. Then the block body of the code is executed once for each value of the sequence, that is print I. The third, the iteration variable moves through all the values in the sequence, that is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It is a 5 element sequence. See this, that's the result. What happened on behalf of this? The value displayed, the first value goes to the I, 5, it prints I. Then the next value goes to the I, it prints that value I. Then it next value 3 goes to the I and it prints I, and so on. What we do in loops? Making smart loops. The trick is knowing something about the whole loop when you are stuck writing code that only see one entry at a time. Now understand it. Set some variable to initial values. For thing in data, look for something or do something to each entry separately, updating a variable. Look at the variables. See in this case, before the loop, we write a statement print before. Then for loop, and inside for, we have a print statement print thing. And then after the loop, we write another statement print after. If we execute the program, the first line is executed before. With the help of iterations, we get the output 9, 41, 12, 3, 74, 15. And after completing the loops, the last statement print after, the after result will be get. Now we have to a program, what is the largest number? How we find out using loop? Let's understand a scenario. We first mark that -1 is the largest number, for example. Then we get the value from the sequence 3. It means we compare -1 with the 3. If 3 is greater, we replace the -1 with the 3. Then we read the next element from the sequence 41. We match the conditions and found 41 is greater than 3. So we replace 3 with the 41. Next we get 12, and which one is the largest? 41 of course no change in the value. Then we get 9, no change in the value. Then we get the 74. Here we clearly seems 41 is the smaller and 74 is the largest, so we have to replace value. And at the end of the loop, we get the maximum number. Now we want to count the number of times loop. How many times this loop executed? So we place a counter variable that is start with 0 and we add 1 to it each time through the loop. So we have placed here jork is equal to 0. Before starting the loop, the value of jork is 0. For each iterations, the value of jork is increased by 1, and after ending of the loop, we get the last value of the jork, that is the number of times loop repeated. Similarly, we can sum up the values of the loop. For the same, we have introduced a sum variable that is start with 0. Here in this example, we using jork as 0. See in the fourth line, jork is equal to jork plus thing. Instead of increasing by 1, we add the value that is coming from the loop. And number of iterations helps to add all the numbers, and after the execution of the loop, we get the total sum of the loop. Similarly, we can find out the average. As we already know, to find out the number of iterations and sum of the iterations, we easily find out the average. For sum, we use sum variable. For counting, we use the count variable, and repeating by increasing the count value and addition the sum value, we get the average, and at the last we can find out the average dividing by the sum with the count. One point to be noted here, that when we divide an integer value with another integer value, it always gives the integer. So if we divide 154 by 25, it gives the 6 as a quotient, that is integer value instead of real number. Filtering in loop. Sometimes it's required to find out some value which are bigger than a number or some value which are smaller than number. Here in this example, we want to find out if we want to display only those values which are greater than 20. So in the iterations, we make a condition. If the value is greater than 20, then only it print the numbers, else no action will be taken. Seeing through the program, we get the largest number is 41 and 74, that is greater than 20. We use an if statement in the loop to filter the value we are looking for. We can also use some Boolean variable to find out or search. Here in case if we want to find out the value 3 that is exists in the sequence, if it exists, we change the flag to the true. See, while iterations, it takes the value 9, and if condition is not true, then for 41 the if condition is not true. For 12 the if condition is not true. For 3 the condition match, and the value found will change to the true Boolean variable. And after the loops is over, in the last statement we can say what is the value found. If found value is true, it means the element is found. Similarly, we can find out the smallest numbers. For smallest number, if we initially assume that -1 is the smallest, then it is not possible to find out the smallest number. So for smallest number, we have initialized that the smallest number should be none, and from none, if we take the first value 9, the 9 will be the smallest element. Then for rest of the element, we can find out the smallest numbers. Here is the code for the find out the smallest value. The smallest is assigned as none because -1 cannot be greater than any of the number. It may be the case. So to find out the smallest, we replace the smallest value initially with the none. And in this case, from for each iterations we compare, and if any value is small found as smallest than the assumed value, the value is replaced with the that smallest value. See in the first case, if smallest is none, because this condition cannot be matched. None cannot be compared with the integer. So we required a is operator. If smallest is none, then the smallest is the first value. And if any value, the smallest value is the less than the smallest number, then the value will be replaced, and after iteration each of times we get the smallest value. See in this example. Similarly, the operation is and is not operator can be used with statements. Now there is some reflection point. The loop that is also known as definite loop is known as while loop, for loop, both loop, none of the loop. True. For loop is the definite loop. Now you have to solve two little programs. The first one is write a program to find out the 10 even number using loop. The second program is write a Python program to find sum of first n natural numbers. You can use any kind of loop, either while or for loop. In this topic, we will already learned about these while loops, some infinite loops, using the break statement, using the continue statement, another kind of loop that is for loop, that is also known as definite loop, iterations variables, how we use the iteration variable, and some few programs for finding out the largest or smallest number. This is for today's. Thank you very much.